I'd like to welcome everybody to the Major Music Lounge podcast. Got a good producer friend of mine, Mr. Phat. What's good, my brother?
What's happening with you, D? Can't call it.
Oh man, definitely a pleasure to have you on the show. I remember we
Yes,
met
sir.
on my previous show a while back, so it's definitely been a minute since we talk. And good to see you still doing big things out there in Lafayette, man.
Yeah, that was a good while back, man. I'm happy to see you. I'm still at it. Good to see you still at it too, man. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, man, definitely, man. Definitely, man. Um, so, a lot of people kind of know you for the Cupid Shuffle single. We're gonna get into that a little bit, but I did want to talk about just
Okay.
tell us a little bit about how you got started, with music, because I know you're kind of like a musical family. Your brother's also a music producer as well. So tell us a little bit
Right.
about,
Right.
how you got inspired to be a producer.
Man, I started off young. My pops was a gospel a choir director and a gospel singer. So, he come from a musical family as well. His brothers played in a band. They all had a band together. So I came up in a household that was real fluent and consistent with music, from gospel to R&B to soul music to jazz bands. So I was around music since a kid, and a lot of I ain't gonna necessarily say rap. I didn't start listening to rap till I got like in high school, I want to say, which is crazy. But you know, my parents really liked a lot of the old, soul music and gospel music. So I got a real good background and history of that first before I switched over to hip hop.
Yeah, man. How long have you been producing overall?
Man, I've been producing probably, I'm gonna say full-time producing, I've been producing for about a good 17 years.
Wow.
I've been producing though, for about a little bit over half my life, man. I'm 41 now, so and I started at the age of 15. So I've been doing it since 15. But I started producing, like, actually getting records out there and started actually making it a career and actually making a living out of it for the past 17 years. So
Man, and it's
yeah.
it's definitely a blessing to see you going strong still, kind of like I was saying earlier. So we kind of, take a look, go back to 2007. You got the Cupid Shuffle, and I remember at
Okay.
that point in time I was working at a Best Buy store out here in Dallas, and I remember, man, it was just kind of cool seeing, first of all, Cupid on that CD out here in Dallas, and
Right,
then
right,
second of
right.
all, just to hear you guys come from a place where I came from, doing it the way that you guys were doing it. And we kind of fast forward in 2011. That's when you were actually on my show, for the Producers Corner. I actually listened to that interview maybe about 30 minutes before we started this one. And at that point in time, it wasn't quite
Bet.
platinum as of yet. So tell us a little bit about, did you ever think when y'all were in the lab creating that song, it ever had the chance to become a platinum record?
Well, I tell this story a lot to my friends. A lot of the people that's close to me know this story. And, me and Cupid laugh about it a lot. Everybody thought it was except me. And that's crazy. But that's only because, I always listen to records from the musical side, the producer side, the psychology side. A lot of my friends always tell me, "Oh, Phat, you're thinking too much. You put too much thought in." The funny story about that is when me and him actually worked on the song, I did not like the beat at all.
Wow.
Like, I completely was like, man, this is too simple. Like, I get the whole concept of less is more, but I was really like, man, let me add some keys, let me add some breakdowns. And he kept saying, no, Phat, I'm telling you, leave it like it is. This is perfect. And I'm like, dog, okay, this is your song. You the one gotta go out there and push that. But don't tell nobody I made this beat. And it's ironic that the one song I told him not to tell nobody I made the track, is the freaking song that got a 3 million sold plaque hanging on my wall today. So I didn't think it was gonna be that, you know, but the people made it the song that it was, you know.
Man, and yeah, it's taking up a life of its own. I mean, it's everywhere. I'm sometimes walking in the mall. I remember the other night, maybe like a week or two ago, I'm chilling in the crib watching the Warriors play one night, and I see Steph and Draymond on the bench dancing to the Cupid Shuffle, and this is
Right,
like, bruh, 2021,
right,
and that song came out in 2007.
right,
And then I mean, you think about all the other
right.
like soundtracks and you know, wherever TV shows, etc. Everywhere it's played, man. And you know,
TV and
props up
movie
to you.
placements, yeah, man. It's been the song just took wings, man, and you know, I can honestly say, man, it's a blessing. It was a blessing in disguise, and man, that song really changed our lives for real, for real, for real.
Man, yeah, definitely, man. Props up to you for that. And you know, aside from that, you
Appreciate
also
it.
known for your Fat Tuesday series. Tell us a little bit
Right,
about
right.
that series as well, because you had a lot of people involved with that over the years, and some of the other projects that you maybe worked on along the way.
A lot of people that aren't from like the southwestern part of Louisiana, who probably know me from Cupid Shuffle and on, they usually not aware of my history before that. Like I said earlier, I started producing when I was 15 years old. So a lot of the popular rappers and musicians and artists that were around my way in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was involved in a lot of that music. So especially for the scene in the 337 area in Louisiana. I mean, you know, it's like I could do a track list, man. I can go back as far as 99, you know what I'm saying, with records I had with other artists. And, you know, I was pretty much known for rapping. I started off as a rapper. Now, we was too broke to buy beats, you know, and I used to buy my beats from who's like my big brother and my mentor now, but you know, and he's doing his thing now. But I used to buy beats from Raw
Yeah,
Chip Anthony.
yeah,
And a lot of people that know me and Chip's story, you know, I used to be one of his clients. Like I used to rap and I knew how to make beats, but I wasn't satisfied with mine. I wanted professionalism. So I started buying tracks from him. And he was like, man, you got it. Buy a keyboard like mine and I'll show you how to use it. So that's how that took off. So Fat Tuesday came up from spinning off from the success of Cupid Shuffle and people just kind of just put me in the box of producer. I just started the Fat Tuesday series to kind of just showcase my rap skills again. Because a lot of people close to home knew that I started off as a rapper. And what it ended up becoming is kind of like I used it as a two-way vehicle almost, I want to say, because I showcased my rap skills as a rapper, but I also showcased my production skills and my songwriting skills. And I say production because, you know, we know cliche producer necessarily doesn't mean beat maker.
right, right.
So when I was putting these Fat Tuesday projects together a lot, most of the times I wasn't doing all of the tracks, but I still produced the records. I still produced the songs. You know, I produced the project in its entirety. So it started showcasing my talent as a real music producer. And after the first Fat Tuesday one, man, things just started taking off, bro. It started becoming a staple. Like around every Mardi Gras, I used to have rappers calling me, hey, look, man, I'm working on a project, but I know Mardi Gras about to come around. You know, if you're dropping this year, if you're not dropping, I'm gonna go ahead and drop mine. I'd be like, yeah, I'm chilling this year. All right, bet. You know what I'm saying? So, and that felt good to have music that people were anticipating. So, you know, it
Yeah,
felt good to bring it back this year. I took a hiatus for about 4 years, man. But I
yeah.
finally did Fat Tuesday 5. Me and Dolby D dropped Fat Tuesday 5 this season.
And as anything, like I know over the last year, with the pandemic, music wise, probably had a lot more time. What's the biggest thing that you took away over the last year, creating music leading up to your release of the most recent release of the Fat Tuesday series?
Man, I'm gonna be all the way honest with you because a lot of people in the industry don't talk about this side or they don't glorify it. But you know what the pandemic showed me? The pandemic showed me how important it was to have my music business affairs in order.
Yeah,
See, when it came to a point where concerts stopped going, because I'm also Cupid's show DJ too on the road.
Yeah.
So when concerts started getting canceled, arenas are closing down, lounges and clubs aren't booking live concerts. A lot of us musicians was relying on royalties and publishing checks and movie and TV placements. Last year really brought the hustler out of a lot of people that were comfortable with having the convenience of performances. And as a producer, I thank God that I had enough business in order to kind of keep me afloat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I ain't gonna sit here and stunt. I wasn't balling out of control. I still, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't drinking margaritas every Friday night either, but shit, thank God I still had, money coming in just off of residuals, residual income from music that I've done 16, 17 years ago, 20 years ago, still getting checks in the mail. That's one thing that the pandemic showed me. And then another thing, it just kind of gave me time to reinvent myself. I had a lot of time to sit there and say, okay, what is everybody doing? What can you do differently? It gave me more time to study the game. It gave me more time to study what kind of wave, what kind of frequency the music was on out there in the world. So it was just a learning process, for me. Hopefully it was like that for a lot of other people too,
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I saw it too. Because
Yeah,
a lot of people had to really have their business together. It wasn't really about going out and doing shows, and it was really about,
right,
you had to have something done, whether you came out with a new album, whether you learned how, if you're a producer, maybe you spent time working on your craft. If you're an artist, maybe you spent time learning how to promote yourself online. And then, I mean, a lot of other people also
right,
think that getting placements with artists is just the way to go. You mentioned talking about some of the other placements that you got, whether it's film and television too. So I say that to say that a lot of people sleep on those additional opportunities, and they're just kind of honed in on just getting those placements with the artists instead. I do want to kind of
right.
rewind when you were talking about, your first keyboard. What did you make the Cupid Shuffle on? Like, what was the gear that you were using around that time?
My Cupid Shuffle setup at that time, I wasn't on software just yet. So the Cupid Shuffle, I made that on the Yamaha Motif. I
Wow.
had the Motif 6 and the MPC 2000 XL.
Yeah.
So that was still my setup. I kind of was like hybrid. I just kind of started messing with Reason around that time, but I wasn't fully transferred over into the software just yet. So, but around that time, 2006, 2007, I was that was strictly my go-to setup. It was the Motif MPC 2000.
Man, yeah,
Yeah,
I just kind of got into the whole hardware thing myself. Now around that time, I did have the MPC 2000, and the person that taught me how to make beats, he was using the Motif around that time as well. But I was using Reason, and I ended up selling my MPC around
right.
maybe 08, 09, because I had to buy another computer because my Mac went out. I just got back into MPC one. I would say
Yeah.
my main dado is a Machine. I use Machine a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I still have Reason. What are you using currently?
Currently, man, I've been on Logic Pro. Man, I've been on
That's the
Logic
way.
Pro the past 10 years, man. I ain't gonna lie. That is hard for me to leave Logic Pro too, man. Like I'm just spoiled in Logic. And it's not more, I don't really hear it pop up
Yeah.
as like the go-to dog these days for for producing and stuff. But man, when I started like bumping shoulders, rubbing shoulders with a lot of other people in the industry, the first thing I was hearing, I was waiting to hear was FL Studio, FL Studio. And a lot of people's like, oh no, man, I'm on Logic. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like I know FL Studio might be the more popular,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Which I have been trying to cross over and learn FL too. I don't ever want to just be a one-trick pony. I want to have some kind of experience on a few platforms, because you never know what situations might be presented to you. I might get stuck on a flight or get my bags missing and might have a studio session and got to work on whatever the studio has. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't want to be stuck and miss out an opportunity because I don't know how to make a track on FL Studio. You know what I'm saying? So, I've been messing with FL Studio a little bit.
I use Logic too. I've used actually been in Logic since like Logic 8, 9, now I'm on 10. And I got that that MacBook Pro with the M1, so that's what I kind of been rocking with and love the way it run on there. And I actually
man.
I had an older computer. Actually, the computer that's right behind me is a older Mac, and I couldn't really run Logic like talking about on there, so I really didn't mess with it until I got an upgraded computer, and it was definitely well worth the wait. I wish I could have ran it a lot better earlier. Is that all you're using currently? Just Logic? You do everything in Logic?
Everything Logic, man. I've just been, and I'm even starting to practice more mixing in Logic as well.
Yeah,
you know, because a few studios I know, they record in Logic as well. It's just an all around program, you know, just kind of like there was this other program back in the Gap a lot of people used to use. Chip used to use it. That's who put me on it first. It was called Digital Performer.
Oh yeah.
And Digital Performer was kind of the same. Yeah, Digital Performer was kind of almost the same format like Logic. You could produce, you could run VSTs, you could record audio, you could run plugins, mix, master in it. So it was an all-in-one, you know, workstation. So that's what kind of had me like that, man. But man, I'm telling you, like I've really tried messing with some other things. Like I got cats that'd be like, man, try Ableton, try FL Studio, try Machine. I've tried Machine, I've tried Ableton. Kind of like the way, you know, FL Studio is, but man, I'm stuck on Logic, dog.
Yeah.
Until FL Studio impresses me and wows me, I might switch over. But you know, now I can't tell you this. Lately, I've noticed that for some reason, FL Studio kind of gives a different feel to the production. And I thought, you know, usually they say all workstations are the same. They just, you know, got different labels and tabs and all that. But I don't know, man. FL Studio has more like a in-your-face algorithm to it for some reason. Like I produced 2 tracks on Phat Tuesday 5 with FL Studio. And for some reason, those tracks sound more powerful. They got more bang, you know, and I'm like, okay, I can understand as far as in hip hop and rap why FL Studio might be the go-to workstation before Logic. But when it comes to like, you know, musical composition and the Just Blaze, Justice League type tracks, I'm not even gonna try that on FL Studio. I'm going, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to Logic. So
yeah, I think, I mean, FL got a really good factory selection of sounds, but Logic too as well. I mean, with the Alchemist synthesizer and just the I like the new sampler in Logic as well. The drum synth and just how you can drag and drop the drum samples into the new sampling now. So it's a lot more efficient for my workflow as well. Now I did want to ask you, you have your new podcast, The Control Room. Tell us a little bit about that and you know your concept behind the control room.
Man, it's my main concept is to start from a producer's point of view. Kind of like what your show does, you know. But I want to specifically highlight the history of 337 producers. And the reason why I say specifically them, my first season, I want to start off with specifically the core base of the Lafayette area, because this area is not mentioned when it comes to, you know, musical placement on the chart of Louisiana. It's like New Orleans, then Baton Rouge, and then they go all the way to Shreveport. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, we can't do that. Like, we can't leave out the Southwest region of Louisiana, man. Our sound is important, man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Our sound is important. And people don't understand the history of the 337 track record. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, 2 of the biggest dance songs in the country came out of Lafayette, Louisiana. Before the Cupid Shuffle was the bunny hop. You know what I'm saying? The bunny hop still gets played to this day, and that's maybe 10 years older than the Cupid Shuffle.
Yeah.
Or maybe 5 to 8 years older than the Cupid Shuffle. So it's like, you know, I didn't like our city. I'm not gonna say our city. I didn't like our area being slept on when it came to Louisiana ranking in music. We had a real big impact. Our stories were just not told. So I felt like I was one of the cats who was around for the majority of that scene. I started off so young at 15, 16 years old. I was around in the late 90s. I was around in the early 2000s, and I'm kind of still around now in the you know, in the rotation. So who better than me to help tell the story through other music producers and execs and artists, you know, who helped pave this path we got in the 337 area for music, you know? And I think it's gonna be enlightening because it's gonna be a lot of stories and a lot of production tales you're gonna hear that a lot of people didn't know about, you know? And I'm blessed to say I got good relationships and I'm acquaintances with a lot of these guys who are producers, man. I was actually signed to Red Bar Records as an in-house producer when Bunny Hop was released. And a lot of people don't know that. It was 3 producers on Red Bar Records. It was Gambino, that's who produced the Bunny Hop. Another guy, Jay Cook, who was a producer and engineer. And it was me. I was the third one. I was the last one to sign on, you know, as in-house producer before they got the deal with Universal Records. So I've seen the movement happen from beginning to end, you know. And I just feel like we got a story to tell. So hopefully with the control room, I'm gonna bring that to light from the producer side of you first. I want to specifically highlight producers because that's my main lane. That's what people identify me with. So I kind of want to bring that light to other cats too, so they can tell their side of the story, and we can start connecting the dots with some of the things that we see going on today. And then we can start connecting these dots back to the origins of how it got where it was, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with it. When I think of Lafayette, um, and go back to a lot of the late 90s, even the early 2000s, you had a lot of people like, I know you did some work with Vicious, for example, and then
Of course. Oh yeah.
who also had ties to UGK and H-Town, who also had ties
Yep.
to Trill Records in Baton Rouge. So
Right.
it's kind of,
Right.
you know, it's kind of
Right.
that domino effect, and Lafayette is kind of mixed in
Yeah.
and all that shuffle, and a lot of people don't know that, man.
Yes, sir.
What kind of what are you working on currently? Anything you got cooking up?
Currently I've been in production with the podcast and the YouTube show. So we've been doing a lot of that. I'm about 4 episodes in. You know, I still haven't released them yet because I kind of want to do them to where they're fully produced, and I just want to make sure that some of these stories are just told right, you know. So I kind of shoot them, and then me and my team, we go back and do a lot of, you know, post editing and stuff like that to make sure it's told right. I get the right music placed and make sure I highlight all the right things. So I got that working real good. I got a deluxe version of Fat Tuesday on the way. You know, I'll break that here first. I didn't announce it yet, but I got a deluxe version of Fat Tuesday on the way this summer. I got a lot more music videos I'll be shooting. I just currently last year finished my wife's album, Nebanese. She's a R&B soul singer out here from this area. Man, we got another Cupid compilation coming out real soon. A lot of other R&B artists that I'm working on right now, you know, that I can't really say about just yet, but and really, I'm trying to really just get back into the rap scene as well. You know,
Sure,
I
sure.
think I got tied up with so much other stuff, producing R&B and, you know, the Southern soul stuff. I did a lot of stuff in the Southern soul market that
Oh yeah.
I don't even get to mention because of all the other stuff I've done. I don't even talk about how many songs I did in the Southern soul world because that's a whole nother genre in its own, you know, that I had a major hand in, especially around this area as well. So a lot of stuff, man. I'm just trying to stay busy, man, and just keep using the gift God bless me with, bro. I don't want to let it go stale, you know.
You did something with Mel Waiters, huh?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Right. I
Okay.
think his last project before he died,
Yeah, man.
we actually rewrote a song Cupid did. It was an original Cupid song, and we ended up doing a revision of the song, and we gave it to Mel Wiz for I think one of his last project.
Man,
Yep.
shout out
I
to
forgot about that, man. That's crazy you brought that up, man.
man. Yeah, man. You know, it just you have a very broad discography, man, and you know that's one of the things that I admire about you because you
Yeah,
did it on the
man.
R&B side, you did it on the hip hop side, you did it on the soul side. Is there any lane that you want to tap into that you haven't tapped into yet?
Yes, man. Dance hall, reggae, and Afrobeat, man. I'm a huge fan of that, man. On the cool.
Man,
Like I've been a big reggae fan for a while. Like a lot of people that know me know, man, Steel Pulse is my favorite reggae band of all time. My cousins put me on Steel Pulse a long time ago, and reggae, the whole, that whole Afro, dance movement that's going on right now. I know it's getting popularized in the country, in the US now, but man, they've been doing that, for years. That's they sound, and something about that music is just it's thriving to me, man. It's like a challenge. I actually did a record like that on my wife's album too. We had a song she did called More to Love, but we kind of did like the Afrobeat dance hall type, vibe on it too, man. So I've been intrigued with that, man. So that's definitely something I'm working with. I got a couple of people that I'm cool with, that kind of want to get me on the Latin side as well, to do like some Latin reggaeton type stuff, man. And I'm open to it, man. I think music is universal. You don't have to just stick to one genre. As a musician, man, you want to create good music no matter what lane it's in.
yeah, man. I mean, we don't definitely don't get into here just to kind of limit ourselves to just doing one type of music. And you know, I like to
Oh no.
experiment as well. I agree with you on that whole dance and techno side of things because I don't know.
Yeah.
I've always liked the vibe that type of music brought. And I've always liked using a lot of those chords and chord progressions in my music, kind of flipping it to hip hop. I feel there's a lot of like similarities in terms of BPM, 120 and above for a lot of that dance and techno
Mhm.
music. And that's what
Right.
I kind of make my beats at right now is 120
Right.
BPM.
Right.
Is there anything would like to say coming on the show to maybe like an up and coming producer, somebody getting into music production here in 2021, maybe that yourself as a young producer didn't know when you started out?
First thing I would always say is make sure you handle your business. Like this is like, I know a lot of us jump into this game and we start off as hobbyists, maybe. It becomes a hobby. And then at some point in time, we get a passion to where we really want to make this a career and a living. So we got to understand that it's called the music business. So I always reiterate that when I send that message out to, because it's serious. There's a lot of people really getting rich, and I mean rich, off of musicians, off of artists, off of songwriters, and these people are struggling and barely paying their bills. And there's people sitting in an office collecting residual income off of their work, simply because they didn't have the knowledge to handle their business. Just as much as we can sit on these workstations and study frequencies and study EQs and limited and compression and mastering and all that stuff we put study into, we should study just as much, if not more, the business side on how we can eat off the stuff we create, because it's a market for it. And it's like you said earlier, song placement is not just the wave, man. There's TV placements, there's music library licensing. Like you can literally make 10 to 15-second samples of songs of just music, and you can license it to a TV licensing company. They'll use your track on a National Geographic scene of a monkey running through the trees. Like there's people who sit there and create sound libraries of just ambiance and feeling. It doesn't need an artist. It doesn't need any lyrics. They might, like, you'll get a song placement, you'll get a sync request, and it'll say National Geographic documentary on whales. So they want something that sounds majestic. Think magical, think water. Hey, go to Omnisphere, pull out all your best majestic sound, you know what I'm saying? And make a 10-second loop. And you can license that to National Geographic. And the difference between licensing and selling means I can license it to National Geographic, which means they can pay me a fee, use it for their documentary. I can turn right back around to the travel network and license the same exact track to another TV network. And I can sell the same track over and over and over and over and over again because it's licensing. You see what I'm saying? So when I say study the business, we should know that type of language. We should know that type of lingo when people say licensing, when people say work for hire, when people, all these terms depend on what type of check you get in the mail at the end of the day. And if you don't know it, somebody's going to act like they know it for you and just say, oh, don't worry about it. Sign right here. You know what I'm saying? So always study the business, man. And stay ahead, man. Technology is just moving so fast. Just stay ahead. Don't become a dinosaur. I was at that point at one time. I was like, man, I'm never leaving analog. Analog is the way. And then I'm pulling up to the studio and it's taking me 30 minutes to get ready because I got to pop in my OS disc. I got to find my zip drive with the drums. I got to get this and sample. And then Cats is coming up in there with a laptop and a hard drive and they cranking out tracks in 10 minutes. I was like, oh, I got to stop this. This getting too much trouble.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the two biggest things. Learning the business. Cats are so eager to just want to get in, just wanting to write, make music. But I look at the example, rest in peace to Black Rob. There was no reason Black Rob should have passed the way that he did, not having any money for medical expenses. I remember somebody, I can't remember who exactly, but it might have been D.L. Hughley, but started a GoFundMe. But at that point, I think it was too late because he was I think he might have passed 3 or 4 days later. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. But there's no reason that Black Rob shouldn't have had money to get proper medical care for himself and die in the way that he did. And then to the other thing you were saying about staying ahead of technology, this whole music production thing is really, I mean, it's everywhere in terms of being able to make beats. And you don't really, opposed to 10, 15 years ago when you had to save a stack or more to buy the right computer, buy your program. Now you can buy an iPad and start cooking up on that now. And then, I mean, even now you can, buy a Mac right at about $1,000 and be able to start using it for production. And then, of course, there'll be some PC options in between. So, I mean, it's really important, no matter what you're doing, to take the time and learn how to use it. And one other thing I want to talk about is a lot of cats think buying more plugins and more sounds and things like that will equate to having better beats, but they're not taking the time to really learn about these VSTs that they're buying. So, kind of slow down, learn what you got, and then move on to something else.
Man, I always say this. It's an old analogy, but people get it every time I say it. If we were mechanics and you showed up to fix my car and you had 72 brand new tools, but didn't know how to work one of them, but the next mechanic had a rusty toolbox and knew every tool like the back of his hand, I promise you, the rusty toolbox is going to get more jobs than the shiny cleaners.
Oh, yeah.
Know your craft.
Easy.
Know your tools.
Know your craft.
I run into it, man. I've been in so many studio sessions, man, and the sessions got 8 plugins per track. And I'm thinking like, man, this is ridiculous, man. Like, do you need all this? Like, you have to understand the science and the actual process of mixing and production before you just start slapping plugins. Too many producers think plugins are just the shortcut, to just doing what you understand. What a plugin does, understand how a compressor works, understand what a limiter does. Once you master using the tools you got, you'll realize that you really don't need much to make a sound, man. That's funny you brought that up, because one night Shorty Red was on live on Instagram one night. It was like 3:30 in the morning. And Shorty Red was playing some of his old tracks, like from the Young Jesus sessions from Trap or Die and stuff. And I was like, man, Shorty Red is on live. And it was on like 5 people on live. So I was like, shit, I'm finna holler at Shorty Red right quick. So I'm like, man, on the intro for such, I think it was Can't Ban the Snowman, I was like, what was the EQ process? Man, Shorty Red said straight up, he was like, ain't no EQ process, homie. A lot of these sounds sound good already. I just mastered the art of sound balancing. I know how not to flood, overcrowd my sounds. I know how to give each sound its own space. That's why my beats hit the way they do. You know, and that's another thing that a lot of producers aren't taught. Understand the importance of space in a track. I always call Dr. Dre the king of space. Dr. Dre could make a hit song with 5 instruments. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Dr. Dre got some of the most classic beats in the world. When you listen to it, it's only 5 instruments. Yep. And you're like, man, how, you know, so it's clean. How you use it, not what you use, you know?
It's how you use it. It's so his mixes are just so clean, and he mixes everything himself.
Oh
man, and
you know, and it's all about not overcrowding your work. You know, I think a lot of us as producers, we get so musically inclined, we just want to add more, which ties in full circle about the first question you asked me about Cupid Shuffle. I think what made that track so impactful is because the song had just the right amount of space.
Yeah.
You know, from the 808 hitting every first of the bar, the top of the bar, to the bass line only coming in during the chorus.
Yeah.
It's like it was the perfect disaster. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what I was doing, but years later, now that I look at it, I understand why the track works now.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
And I used to be one of those people that I would add so many instruments to a beat back in, you know, this was like when I first started 10, 15 years ago. And I listened to some of those beats. I'm like, ugh, it's painful to listen to. And then I listened to some of the more recent stuff, and it sounds so much cleaner. It just, simplicity is everything, man. You definitely don't need to overcrowd everything with instruments. And sometimes less is more. Where can people follow you and find, your work online?
Man, everything at Mr. Phat, mr.phat, Apple Music, Spotify, iTunes, Tidal, all of it, man. You can follow me on Instagram at Mr. Phat. The only thing that's different is my Facebook. It's Mr. Phat Platinum Producer. Okay. Because oddly enough, there's a few other Mr. Phats out there in the world. So, I just try to brand mine as much as I can, man.
Man, I'm going through the same thing. I had this other Dee Dot on my Apple Music, and people hitting me up about some of his albums. I'm like, that's not me. I didn't even produce nothing on that.
Right.
So, I go through it too.
Right.
Now, one thing I forgot to ask you, you got your own studio out there in Lafayette too, huh?
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now, man. Hub City Studios. Well, we've been over here 5 years. I actually, we're located inside the Northgate Mall, the mall that was on the north side of town in the Lafayette, man. So, we came and hollered at the people at Northgate Mall, kind of brought them our game plan with them, and they gave us a shot. And we've been here going on about to be 6 years this summer.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, if y'all in Lafayette, definitely hit up Mr. Phat and check out Hub City Studios. And I gotta roll through there soon too. I ain't been down there in a minute, of course, because of the pandemic, but I'm about to start getting on the road again. So I'm definitely, look y'all up when I'm down there, man. Yeah. And shoot,
come through, man.
Whenever you're in Dallas as well, man, holla at your boy, man. Definitely would love to get down and work with you, man.
Cool deal, man. I actually might be out there in June or July. Okay. There's I think they're having that Vertigo showcase thing. I'm gonna be out there for that, man. So I'll probably be out there that whole weekend, man. We definitely gonna link up.
Okay, yeah, man. Definitely link up with you, man. And anytime you got any projects or want to get up and get on and chop it up about something, love to have you on, and I appreciate you spending this time, man, chopping up. Definitely a great conversation, man.
Hey man, I appreciate you for giving me the platform, man. Just like back then to today, bro. Appreciate what you do, man.
Yes, sir.
It's
Yes,
necessary.
man. I appreciate that, man. Definitely coming from you, doing the things that you've done in the industry, man. And keep on, man. Keep on the good work, man.
I appreciate it, man. I ain't gonna stop, dog.
So this concludes another edition of the Major Music Lounge. You can actually catch the Major Music Lounge on all streaming podcast platforms like Apple Music Podcast, Spotify Podcast, and YouTube on Fridays. We're about to actually wrap up season 1 pretty soon. It will be 20 shows that we've done, right? This show is actually going to be episode 17. So there'll be 3 more shows after this one. And then I'm going to put some things on hold for the summer and come back probably August or so and bring some new shows to you. So definitely stay tuned for that. If you've been following this show since the beginning, I really appreciate everybody's support thus far. And again, stay tuned, more to come. Follow me on Instagram at d._major music. You can follow me on Twitter at d.mme, and let me know you're from the channel. I appreciate it. This has been another edition of the Major Music Lounge. We had Mr. Phat on there. Shout out to Mr. Phat, and shout out to everybody that took the time to watch this one. And I'm out.